So we got a video here by Front Page, and it's called the Hypocrisy of Male versus Women Spaces. Let's check it out. Link will be in the description below.
In 2023, almost 39,000 American men killed themselves.
Why does it sound like Caleb Hammer? Is it just me, or does this sound like Caleb Hammer?
In 2023, almost 39,000 American men killed themselves.
Hold up. Nah. I gotta find out. Hold on.
How much do you spend on their fun?
We don't do fun. I don't have time for fun.
Okay.
It sounds like Caleb Hammer. Am I tripping? Maybe I'm tripping. All right.
In 2023, almost 39,000 American men killed themselves. That works out to be one every 14 minutes. And by the end of this video, roughly 200 more will be dead from suicide or overdose in the United States alone. 40,000 a year, give or take, in a single country. And most of them weren't famous. Their notes will never make the news. They were welders, line cooks, ex-Marines, retired trekkers, fathers who stopped picking up their kids, sons who stopped calling their moms. Almost 80% of every American suicide is male. The US Surgeon General put out a public advisory in May 2023, and the headline number from that report should have stopped the country cold.
I've heard that when it comes to suicide attempts, I heard that women have more attempts, but men have more actual success and deaths. That's what I heard, but I don't know if it's true or not, though.
Chronic loneliness, the report said, carries roughly the same mortality risk as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. The risk exceeds obesity, exceeds air pollution, exceeds physical inactivity. In 1990, 55% of American men say they had at least 6 close friends. By 2021, that number had collapsed to 27. The share of men who reported having 0 close friends, none at all.
And that is what the male loneliness epidemic is about. It's the article that came out about male loneliness epidemic. That was about men having friends, and then women decided to take it and be like, they're lonely because they don't have us. And like, once again, people be like, oh, it's gotta be about me. You say it's about you men not having friends, but no, it's obviously about me. Like, what the fuck?
Climbed from 3% to 15%, a 5-fold increase in a single generation.
Okay, so men with 0 close friends went from 3% to 15% between 1999 and 2021. Okay, that's great. I mean, we you know what I'm saying, we bouncing back. We still in there.
Single-person households in the United States went from 13.
I mean, obviously, I think gaming is gonna have something to do with that too. Because dudes can make very close friends with each other through games. Like, you don't even know who the other person is on the other side, but y'all will start duoing or doing whatever, and like y'all will become get closer and closer, and then eventually y'all start talking on Discord and Skype together or whatever. And y'all just become close friends, and then y'all eventually meet in real life, and y'all just still be chilling, just be close friends.
15% in 1960 to 29% by 2022. Among 15 to 24-year-olds, in-person time spent with friends fell roughly 70% over 2 decades. Across all age groups, the average...
Yeah, in-person time with friends, so it is online gaming. Average daily time spent alone in the US. I mean, as an introvert, I'm looking at y'all are rookie numbers, bro. Y'all got them rookie numbers. Plus 48 minutes alone, that's it? Y'all, I see rookie numbers over there. You need to up that shit, bro.
Average American now spends about 333 minutes a day alone, up from 285 in 2003. Time with friends in person fell from about 60 minutes a day to about 20. The country has watched this happen and produced almost nothing in response. No serious civil project. No bipartisan plan, no replacement for what got dismantled. Because here's the part that almost nobody is willing to say out loud. The institutions that used to absorb American men, the lodges, the unions, the churches, the clubs, the fraternal halls, the boys-only schools,
Hold up. I saw that, didn't I? I know I saw what I saw. Wait, hold up. Oh yeah, there's a Freemason symbol at the bottom left. Like on that building.
out loud. The institutions that used to absorb American men, the lodges, the unions,
anyway?
the churches, the clubs, the fraternal halls, the boys-only schools, the boys-only youth groups, the corner bars, the local rotaries, and Lions and Elks and Odd Fellows were not long.
Yeah, a lot of these have been like dissolved or like been forced to allow women. Is that what happened to them?
Lost in some accident of history. They were targeted, sued, integrated, defunded, defamed, and rebranded out of existence over the course of about 40 years. And while that was happening, a parallel ecosystem of women-only spaces was built right next to the rubble, wholly legal, wholly funded, and unchallenged. So this video is not a complaint, it's a measurement. And I'll lay out exactly how that asymmetry got built into American law, into American culture, into American economics, into the dating market, into politics, and into the suicide rate. This is the story of the end of male spaces, the rise of female ones, and the men who got left in the gap between them. And it ends in a place that almost everyone on every side of the political map should find disturbing. This is Front Page.
The end of the end of male spaces. How a civic ecosystem got dismantled and what replaced it.
In 1897,
secret societies in America. You know, I kind of want to be. I kind of want to get into one, a secret society. I don't know why. Like, I feel like there's a calling for me to be in one. I don't know why, but I feel like I should be. It's weird. It's a weird feeling.
Journalist named W.S. Harwood sat down for the North American Review and tried to count how many American men belonged to a secret fraternal order. His estimate was 5.4 million, about 1 in 5 adult men in the entire country. That figure is almost impossible to picture today. 1 in 5 adult men in the country in 1897 paid annual dues to a brotherhood with secret handshakes, ranks, oaths, and weekly meetings. Bosses.
Nowadays, maybe not nowadays, but there's like still gangs, but like these weren't gangs. These were like just secret societies with their own secret handshakes and shit, bro.
Dentists, mailmen, football coaches, and accountants belonged to lodges as a matter of normal life. By 1990, there were more than 568 distinct fraternal orders in the United States, with over 6 million combined members across more than 350 organizations. The Sears Roebuck catalog of 1900 sold 80 different lapel pens, watch fobs, and charms representing 28 different orders. A man could buy a ring for one of these through the same catalog he ordered work boots from. These were the giants. The Freemasons hit roughly 4 million American members at their peak in the 1950s. The Independent Order of Odd Fellows had close to 1 million by 1900. Behind them sat the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks, the Loyal Order of Moose, the Knights of Pythias, the Knights of Columbus, and the Improved Order of Red Men, the Modern Woodmen of America, and the Loyal Order of Hibernians.
I didn't know any of these existed. The only one I knew about was the Freemasons. I didn't even know like the Independent Order of Odd Fellows, and wow, that's cool.
These orders functioned as something specific. In modern terms, they were the welfare state before the welfare state existed, before Social Security passed in 1935, before Medicare arrived in 1965. The Odd Fellows and the Moose and the Modern Woodmen ran what amounted to private insurance for working class men. A roofer who broke his back got rent money from the lodge. A miner who died of tuberculosis at 38 got the funeral covered and left his widow a small stipend. An orphan's son went to the lodge's orphanage. The modern
so if something happened to you, you didn't have to worry about how you wouldn't have to worry about what's gonna take care of your family, how your family's gonna have to be able to get taken care of. You know what I'm saying? You would have to worry less about it. Like other than what you set aside for them and have them set up for, the lodge will also step in and make sure your family is good. That's awesome.
Woodmen of America still exists today as a commercial life insurance company. Woodmen of the World does too. Same with the Independent Order of Foresters. The lodges came first and the insurers came second, only flipping later. Black men locked out of white insurance markets and white fraternities built their own. Prince Hall Freemasonry, founded in 1784, the Grand United Order of Odd Fellows in 1843, and the Improved Benevolent and United Orders built their own. Prince Hall Freemasonry, founded in 1784,
A black guy is that is the Freemasonry? So is that the Freemason? I'm guessing that's Freemasons. And it was founded by a black guy, or am I hearing that wrong? Or am I just way off?
The Grand United Order of Odd Fellows in 1843, and the Improved Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks of the World in 1899. These parallel orders served identical functions: mutual aid, burial benefits, mentorship, identity, a safe room. The Harvard political scientist Robert Putnam, in his book Bowling Alone, attributed roughly half of the post
I don't know why I thought that was a foot.
Putnam.
I don't like. I knew it was like a bowling ball, but I was like, why does that look like it's a foot or something?
In his book Bowling Alone, attributed roughly half of the post-1960 collapse in American civic engagement to the loss of these institutions. Not because the buildings burned down, but because nobody under 40 bothered to join them. The demand side of the lodge collapse runs through generational tastes and competing pastimes. The supply side runs through the United States Supreme Court. In 1984, a 7-0 Supreme Court decision, with 2 of the 9 justices recused, killed the all-male civic club as an American legal category. The case was Roberts versus United States Jaycees. The Jaycees were the Junior Chamber of Commerce. Founded in 1920, around 235,000 dues-paying members at peak, distributed across 7,400 local chapters. Voting members were reserved for men aged 18 to 35. Women and older men were allowed to come, allowed to volunteer, allowed to pay associate dues, but they could not vote and they could not hold leadership. 2 Minnesota chapters, the Minneapolis.
So people, it's like other normies could come through, but they couldn't vote. Hey, you can do what you do. You can't vote. Our shit.
Jaycees and the St. Paul Jaycees broke ranks and started admitting women as full voting members. The national organization threatened to revoke their charters. The chapters sued under the Minnesota Human Rights Act, a state public accommodations law that banned sex discrimination in commercial settings. The Jaycees defended themselves with the First Amendment. Freedom of association, they argued. The Jaycees called themselves a private group with the right to pick their own members and no obligation to let the state dictate the shape of the membership. Justice William Brennan wrote the majority opinion, and he split the right of association into 2 pieces. Intimate association, like marriage and family, got the strongest protection. Expressive association, like a political party or a church group, got real protection as well. But the Jaycees, Brennan ruled, were neither. They were too big, too commercial, too open in their recruiting. So the state's compelling interest in ending sex discrimination won. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor wrote a concurrence that mattered just as much. She argued that the Jaycees were a business in all but name: networking, job leads, career advancement. So treat them like one. Subject the Jaycees to the same anti-discrimination rules as any other business. The concurrence is what dismantled the rest. 3 years later, in 1987, the same logic killed Rotary's International's men-only rule. The case was Board of Directors of Rotary International versus Rotary Club of Duarte. A Rotary chapter in Duarte, California, had admitted 3 women: Donna Bogart, Mary Lou Elliott, and Rosemary Freitag, in 1977. Rotary International, which at that time had nearly 20,000 clubs and over 900,000 members across 157 countries, revoked the chapter's charter for it. California sued under the state's Civil Rights Act, the same kind of public accommodations law Minnesota had used against the Jaycees. 7-0 again. Rotary lost. Within 2 years, at the 1989 Council on Legislation in Singapore, Rotary's worldwide governing body voted 328 to 117 to strike men only from the international constitution.
Damn, there goes male only spaces, fam. You just have to rename it to penis only. This is a penis only space, fam. Because nowadays, men mean something, can mean like trans men as well. You gotta say penis only spaces, fam. It's a penis only space. Today, about a quarter of Rotary's global membership is female. Lions Club followed. Kiwanis followed. The dominoes were lined up and they fell in sequence. In 1988, the court ruled in New York State Club Association versus City of New York that Local Law 63, a New York City ordinance forcing private clubs with more than 400 members and regular meal service to admit women, was constitutional. Damn. Hey, if you got 400 members or more than 400 members, You gotta start letting women in, fam. It can no longer be a male only space. You have to let women in. What the only 400 men allowed. No more.
Ended men-only membership at the New York Athletic Club, the Cosmos Club in Washington, and a long list of similar institutions. In 1996, in United States versus Virginia, a 7-1 court ruling written by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, with Justice Clarence Thomas recused because his son was enrolled there, struck down the men-only admissions policy at the Virginia Military Institute. VMI was the last all-male public college in the United States, founded in 1839. The state of Virginia had tried to compromise by setting up a parallel program for women at Mary Baldwin College, the Virginia Women's Institute for Leadership. Ginsburg called it a pale shadow, not equal. The remedy was admission, not separation. VMI's Board of Visitors voted 9-8 to admit women rather than convert the school into a private institution.
Vote that changed VMI. Admit women, rather. You gotta admit women. Hey, nah, I can only, again, no longer male only. You have to admit women. So yeah, everything, all the clubs and private male only spaces ended up being technically invaded, and were forced to start admitting women.
35,000 applications to high school girls across the country. 30 enrolled in the fall of 1997. 23 made it through the rat line, which is the brutal first-year hazing program every cadet has to survive. The Princeton story, though, is the one that captures the texture of the whole era best. In the fall of 1977, a Princeton sophomore named Sally Frank walked into the office of the Dean of Student Affairs to register for BICR, which is the cutthroat membership selection process at Princeton's elite eating club. She wrote her name down as SB.
Eating club? Of course she wanted to get in that shit, bro.
Frank, and checked the box that read male. A few days later, she got BICR appointments to all 5 of Princeton's most selective eating clubs. 3 of them were men only. Cap and Gown and Tower Club had already gone co-ed. Cottage, Ivy, and Tiger Inn had not. Sally Frank showed up to her BICR meetings as a woman. The clubs were not amused. Cottage Club's president told the Daily Princetonian that the women applicants were not legitimate candidates. Tiger Inn's president said the women had registered illegally for BICR. Frank received 0 bids. She filed a complaint with the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights in February 1979. The lawsuit lasted 11.
This male-only space won't let me in. This male-only space won't let a woman in. I'm mad. They won't let me in. And I'm a woman. And I want to get into this space, and they won't let me in. Filing a lawsuit.
Years. She graduated from Princeton in 1980. She enrolled at Rutgers Law. She passed the bar. She represented herself on her own appeal. The case generated 31 volumes and roughly 6,000 pages of court record. Members of Tiger Inn and Ivy Club printed up t-shirts during the litigation that featured a doctored picture of her face with a mustache drawn on, captioned "Better Dead Than Co-ed." A Tiger Inn lawyer showed up to one settlement conference in Playboy bunny suspenders. Cottage Club gave up first, settling in 1986 and going co-ed. Ivy and Tiger Inn fought all the way to the Supreme Court of New Jersey. On July 3rd, 1990,
they got bro. They gave up and they ended up going co-ed. They lost their will to fight.
The New Jersey Supreme Court ruled in a unanimous opinion by Justice Marie Garibaldi that the eating clubs functioned in a symbiotic relationship with Princeton, qualified as places of public accommodation under New Jersey law, and could no longer exclude women. Tiger Inn appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. The court declined to hear it in January 1991. In February 1991, 27 women BICRed Tiger Inn for the first time. In 2015, Tiger Inn elected its first female president. That was the legal pattern. Sue, win, force open. Move on to the next club. The Augusta National...
That's fucked up, bro. That's like an invasion tactic. Sue, win, make them go co-ed, and now you've successfully invaded a male space. That's fucked up. Sue, win, they win, and then celebrate.
Golf club resisted longer than almost anyone. In 2002, the chair of the National Council of Women's Organizations, a woman named Martha Burke, sent a letter to Augusta's chairman, William Hoodie Johnson, asking the club to admit women members. Johnson's reply became famous. "There may well come a day when women will be invited to our membership," he wrote, "but that timetable will be ours and not at the point of a bayonet." Burke staged a protest.
There may come a day when we go co-ed, but that is going to be our decision, and that's not going to come. That's not going to come from a threat. We're not going to bow down to. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to be told to do this while having a bayonet pointed at us. No. we're gonna decide when we do that shit. I feel it. Women pay while corporate CEOs play.
At the 2003 Masters, about 30 supporters showed up. CBS aired the 2003 and 2004 Masters with no commercials at all because corporate sponsors did not want to be associated with the controversy. Burke's group then pivoted. They went after the corporate boards whose CEOs were Augusta members. 2 sex discrimination lawsuits filed against companies whose chief executives were club members produced settlements totaling roughly $79 million. In 2012, IBM appointed Virginia Rometty as its CEO. The 4 IBM CEOs before her had all been Augusta members. Rometty showed up at the 2012 Masters in a pink jacket. The implication was clear, and the pressure climbed. On August 20th, 2012, Augusta admitted Condoleezza Rice, the former Secretary of State, and Darla Moore, a South Carolina financier, out of roughly 300 members. The Yale's Skull and Bones, the secret senior society from 1832, opened up the same way. The class of 1991 tapped 7 women for the class of 1992. The alumni board, led for a stretch by William F. Buckley Jr., changed the locks on the tomb at 64 High Street in New Haven on April 1991 to keep the women out. A mail-in vote.
Bro, I'm gonna change the locks, bro. They ain't getting in here. I don't give a fuck. They're not getting in here.
Of all alumni had come back 368 to 320 in favor of admitting women. Buckley got a temporary restraining order. The alumni board voted 6-2 for admissions in late May 1991. The first woman members joined in the fall of 1992. The Boy Scouts of America held out the longest. Founded in 1906 as a male-only organization, they allowed girls into the venturing program in the 1970s, but the core scouting experience stayed male-only for over a century. In 2017, BSA announced it would admit girls. In 2018, Cub Scouts went co-ed. On February 1st, 2019, the flagship program was rebranded Scouts BSA, and girls joined that too.
Bruh, all these male spaces where men could bond and be together and be be men, you know what I'm saying? Not have to worry about offending anyone, but with the way they do things. All these spaces where men could it's their safe space, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? It was just for men. It just got taken over, just like what's happening now in the gaming industry, or the male gaming industry and shit like that. Like all of our action games, like what's been happening with Halo, what's been happening with Grand Theft Auto. All of these spaces we're still being invaded, bro. There's like barely any. Is there any like actual male spaces that haven't been invaded yet? Damn, this sucks. Like men have to have their own space. That's why man caves are important to men. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta have your space where you can just be, where men can just be men and not have to worry about offending people. Or not have to worry about trying to tone down or not be who they are because there's a bunch of women present. You feel me? They need a space where they can just be men and bond as men.
In May 2024, the entire organization rebranded again. It is now called Scouting America. Scouting America membership had collapsed from roughly 6 million at its peak in 19.
You let women in, and everything starts to collapse and fall apart. Just with our video games too, and our Marvel movies. Hey, Spider-Man just gave Marvel a boost though. So shout out to Spider-Man. But goddamn, but for that time that MCU was being called MCU instead.
1972 to about 1 million today. The organization filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 2020 and exited it in 2024 with a $2.46 billion settlement covering more than 80,000 sex abuse claims. The Girl Scouts of USA, which sued Scouting America over name confusion, has remained girls only. The asymmetry sits in the data.
Wait. But the female spaces are just remaining girls only. They're not even wanting to open up and become co-ed. I mean, I'm guessing men just don't want to join anyway. But like, they're not even trying to open up and be co-ed and start trying to ask other people to join, ask men to join. Nah, there's like, nope. We're gonna keep this female only and keep invading the male spaces. Yep. Damn, bro. Invasion's going on in many different ways, not just in male spaces by females, but also countries by foreigners. You feel me?
And the data is unambiguous. White male-only civic, social, and educational institutions were being legally pried open one by one. Women's institutions were doing the opposite. They were proliferating, expanding, raising venture capital, and getting explicit legal protection from the same statutory machinery that had been used to integrate the men's clubs. Start with colleges. In 1960, the United States had more than 250 women's colleges. About 30 still operate as women-only today, and in the prestige tier, the Seven Sisters is still mostly intact. Leslie, Smith, Mount Holyoke, Bryn Mawr, and Bernard remain all women. Vassar went co-ed in 1969. Radcliffe was absorbed into Harvard. Now compare that to men's colleges.
All of them are co-ed.
The complete list remaining all-male four-year colleges in the United States as of 2026 is 3. Hampton-Sydney College in Virginia, founded in 1775. Wabash College in Indiana, founded in 1832. And Morehouse College in Atlanta, founded in 1867.
Only 3 men's colleges out of all the male colleges. Only 3 remain male only. That's more than I thought it was going to be.
As a school for freed black.
But for how long is it going to be male only?
Black men. And clearly, if those 3 schools are going to survive, they're going to have to learn how to budget their money even better. And luckily, you can too by joining the tens of thousands of active monthly users who use the Dollarwise budgeting app. It is the most simple budgeting app for a reason, because most people.
Doesn't Caleb Hammer also usually get that, this sponsor? Dollarwise?
Will actually stop using the other confusing ones that are overly complicated. So with the automated account connections and insights that actually help you change your life, you can do that right now by starting the free trial at dollarwise.com or by downloading the app or click the link below. Check it out. With the free trial, there's no reason not to. Now look at what got built where
Caleb
the men's institutions used to stand. In October 2016, 2 former tech executives named Audrey.
Yeah, so I'm not the only one that says this, that thinks it sounds like Caleb.
Institutions used to. Check it out. With the free trial, there's no reason not to. Now look at what got built where the men's institutions used to stand. In October 2016, 2 former tech executives named Audrey Gelman and Lauren Casson opened a women-only co-working and social club in the Flatiron district of Manhattan. They called it The Wing. Membership was $2,700 a year. The aesthetic was millennial pink walls, brass fixtures, and a curated library of books written by women. The Wing raised $2.4 million in seed money, then $8 million in a Series A from Kleiner Perkins and New Enterprise Associates in April 2017. In November 2017, Adam Newman's WeWork led a $32 million Series B. The 2018 Series C was $75 million. Reported peak valuation ranged from $200 to $400 million. Investors included Serena Williams, Meghan, and Alex Morgan. Hillary Clinton, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Jennifer Lopez, and Meryl Streep all dropped in. By early 2020, the Wing operated 11 locations, employed 500 people, had over 12,000 members, and had a waitlist of more than 35,000. In August 2018, a male applicant filed a sex discrimination complaint against the Wing under New York City's human rights law. The same statute, almost word for word, that had been used in 1988 to force the New York Athletic Club to admit women.
Yeah, so it's this. Okay, so the same statute and everything, and when the women were filing a lawsuit for not being allowed into a male space, that same statute a male was using for because he couldn't be allowed into a female space. I'm guessing he gets denied. But the woman won her case, but the male can't win his, I'm guessing.
The New York City Commission on Human Rights opened a formal investigation in March 2018. By September of that year, the Wing had been forced to abandon its women-only policy and adopt what its lawyers called a non-gender restrictive admissions framework. The Wing did not survive the change. By March 2020, the New York Times had published a long investigation alleging mistreatment of Black and brown hourly staff.
God damn. Okay, but I was gonna say, I said okay, cool, because I was expecting like the kid would not have won, but he did win, which is surprising to me. I thought he wasn't gonna win.
Audrey Gelman resigned in June 2020.
How the wing became a symbol of toxic wokeness.
750-member STAC coalition of former and current members demanded refunds. IWG, the parent company of Regus, took a majority stake in early 2021. The chairs were repainted pink to green. The doors closed for good on August 31st, 2022. The same legal mechanism that took down Augusta National, VMI, the Jaycees, Rotary, Cosmos Club, and the New York Athletic Club applied to the wing too. Of all the women-only spaces in the country, the wing was one of the few that got the same treatment. Most actually didn't. A woman-only executive now.
Okay, so there were a bunch that were able to, I'm guessing, resist or beat the lawsuit that was supposed to allow male spaces or male into their space, or they just didn't get targeted.
Networking club called Chief, founded in January 2019 by Carolyn Childers and Lindsay Kaplan, took the lessons of the wing and applied them. Membership runs $5,800 a year for vice presidents and $7,900 to $8,900 a year for C-suite executives. Chief raised a $22 million Series A in June 2019. In March 2022, Capital G, a venture arm of Alphabet, the parent company of Google, led a $100 million Series B at a $1.1 billion valuation. The total funding stands around $140 million. As of late 2022, Chief had roughly 20,000 members and a waitlist of 60,000. Corporate partnerships include Morgan Stanley, IBM, HBO, Goldman Sachs, Nike, Pfizer, and Lockheed Martin. 5 clubhouses operate in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, San Francisco, and Washington. A male-only equivalent of Chief with the same membership model, the same caliber of investors, the same corporate partnerships, and the same valuation doesn't exist anywhere in the United States, and there is no legal path to building one. In fitness, the asymmetry is even sharper. Curves International, the women-only fitness chain founded in 1992 in Harlingen, Texas by Gary and Deanne Heaven, peaked in October 2006 at
So it's a women-only fitness chain. It looks like it's in a lot of like everywhere around the U.S. So why don't women just go to this women's only fitness space instead of going to co-ed gyms and recording men that might glance at them and saying that they're being harassed? Why don't you just go to the women's only gym?
over 10,000 locations worldwide and 7,848 in the United States. Curves declined sharply after 2010, hammered by the rise of Planet Fitness and other budget gym competition, and as of 2019, it had shrunk to roughly 367 U.S. franchise locations.
So due to the rise of co-ed gyms, the female-only gym declined. Oh, damn. And yet women just want to complain that men might be looking at them instead of going to that instead of having to stay in the female-only gym, or just instead of continuing to go to the female-only one.
But the model itself is still legal, still operating, and still building new locations under foreign ownership. HealthWorks.
So it's still going too. It's still there. It still exists. Just go to the female-only gym.
Fitness for Women in Boston, founded in 1977. Lucille Roberts, a New York chain founded in 1969. Both still operating, both women only, both legally protected. The protection comes from a tangle of state-level statutory carve-outs. Massachusetts passed an explicit fitness exemption in 1998. New York's human rights law has a single-sex exemption, section 296.16. Connecticut has its own carve-out. The federal Title IX statute at section 1681A(5) exempts traditionally single-sex undergraduate institutions, which is why institutions like Smith remain legally female-only. For men, the equivalent statutory carve-outs do not exist. No state-level exemption permits a male-only fitness chain to operate at scale today. Any attempt to build one would face the same lawsuit that took down the Jaycees in 1984.
Damn.
The conservative legal commentator
So you can't even build new male spaces?
Eugene Volokh has written about this asymmetry in Reason magazine on multiple occasions. The columnist Jeff Jacoby of the Boston Globe wrote a 2017 piece titled, in part, "Nobody Gains When Anti-Discrimination Law Crushes Useful Startups," about the legal pressure on HealthWorks. Heather MacDonald at the Manhattan Institute and Christina Hoff-Sommers at the American Enterprise Institute have made similar arguments for over 20 years. The argument is not that women's gyms should be banned, it is that the same statute cannot mean two different things depending on which sex is doing the excluding, but it does. And right now, that asymmetry is the law. The asymmetry has a cause. The legal pressure rolled through every men's institution in the country and then stopped almost on a dime at the door of the women's institutions for a specific reason. The honest answer is that legislators and courts wrote in carve-outs for women's spaces grounded in 3 rationales. And first, privacy. Locker rooms, fitting rooms, restrooms, and shelters have been single-sex in American law since the 19th century. The principle called bona fide privacy in the case law predates the modern civil rights era by a century. It applies to men's spaces too, narrowly, in those exact same contexts. Second, domestic violence. Bureau of Justice Statistics data shows that women are roughly 70 to 80% of intimate partner violence victims, and the perpetrators are overwhelmingly male. Domestic violence shelters that serve biological women only have a defensible safety rationale that a men-only shelter would have a much harder time articulating in court. Third, religious accommodation. Massachusetts courts and others have held that women-only fitness facilities serve a religious accommodation purpose for some Muslim and Orthodox Jewish women who cannot exercise in mixed-sex environments under their religious obligations. But that argument is not available in the same form for men's gyms.
Oh man. So it's like, sure, you can have women's spaces if it's for religious purposes that would cause women to need to be not around men to work out. But you can't do that for men. Nope. Damn.
So they make clear why
That's why this is called the hypocrisy of male versus women's spaces.
carve-outs exist, but it doesn't really apply to most things that we've talked about in this episode so far. So the trouble is that those 3 rationales, privacy, safety, and religious accommodation, do not justify the full scope of the women-only ecosystem now operating in the United States. A $1.1 billion venture-funded women-only executive club for VPs and C-suite officers at Goldman Sachs is not a domestic violence shelter. A women-only co-working space in the Flatiron is not protecting Orthodox Jewish observers. The Wing, when stripped to its operational reality, was an elite networking platform with a sex-restricted door, which is the same pattern the JCs were destroyed for in 1984. This is the legal asymmetry that the law has not resolved. Most public commentators on the right call it a double standard. Their counterparts on the left call it a corrective. The gap between those 2 readings is where most of the political fight in the United States now lives, and it is also where many of the loneliest men in the country are stuck. The data shows them in detail. Men have lost their institutional infrastructure faster than any other group in the country, and the consequences of that loss are no longer abstract. They show up in mortality. Start with education. In 1970, men earned 57% of all bachelor degrees in the United States. By 2021, men earned 42%.
I feel like men started just getting trades like instead of going to college, While at the same time, all these courses started to open up for that are usually mostly women, like things like gender studies and shit like that. So there are a lot more female bachelor degree holders, but I'm gonna say that a lot of those degrees are just useless degrees. Like I said, like gender studies and shit like that.
The lowest male share on record. There are now roughly 2.4 million more women than men enrolled in U.S. undergraduate programs. Among Americans aged 25 to 34, 47% of women hold a bachelor's degree, compared to 37% of men. The K-12 pipeline that feeds those numbers is also tilting. In every major American school district, on average, boys are about a full grade level behind girls in reading. On the most recent NAEP 12th grade reading assessment, girls were about 13 points ahead of boys, which is roughly a third of a standard deviation. Boys carry double the ADHD diagnosis rate and roughly double the suspension rate. They drop out more often. For every 100 girls held back to repeat kindergarten, 145 boys are. The teaching work.
Well, I mean, like even in schools like that, like boys are naturally more, active. They need to be able to physically run around, things like that, and do stuff. Girls are great at sitting and paying attention and stuff. So schools where schools for kids are more, well, schools in general are more tailored to accommodating women. It's men don't, the boys don't grow as well in schools as women do because of those situations.
workforce that those boys see standing in front of them is also disappearing on the male side. In 1988, men were 30% of K-12 teachers. By 2021, that figure was 23%. In elementary schools, men are about 11% of teachers.
Damn.
In pre-K and kindergarten, men are less than 3% of teachers.
Damn.
About 6% of all U.S. teachers are men of color, while 26% of K-12 students are boys of color. Richard Reeves, the former Brookings scholar who founded the American Institute for Boys and Men in 2023, has documented all of this in his book of Boys and Men. Reeves' argument, which he derives from neuroscience research on prefrontal cortex development, is that the female brain develops the executive function regions about 1 to 2 years earlier than the male brain. Reeves proposes a structural intervention he calls redshirting, in which boys would start kindergarten 1 year later than girls to even out the developmental gap. Reeves also flags one of the most striking data points in modern education economics: the Kalamazoo Promise, a program that fully funded state college tuition for any graduate of the Kalamazoo public school system, the town next to mine, by the way, so I didn't get that, damn it, raised post-secondary degree completion for women in that district by about 12 percentage points. For men in the same district, the same program produced no measurable increase in bachelor's degree completion. Similar scholarship and mentoring programs in North Carolina, Arkansas, and Georgia have produced similar patterns. Women respond, men do not. Whatever is breaking the pipeline for boys breaks earlier than the cash incentive can reach. Now follow those boys into the labor market as men. In 1954, the prime age male labor force participation rate, which counts men aged 25 to 54 who are either working or actively looking for work, hit roughly 98%. Almost universal. Almost every adult man of working age had a job or was hunting for one. In 2024, that rate stands at about 89%. In 1960,
it dropped from like 99, 98% to 89%.
only 1 in 35 prime
within that time span. Oof.
aged men was out of the labor force. In 2023, 1 in 9 was. As of late 2023, an estimated 6.9 million American men in their prime working years were neither employed nor looking for work. Between 81 and 87% of those men have no bachelor's degree. Several things pulled these men out at once. Manufacturing employment in the United States peaked at 19.6 million jobs in June 1979. By February 2010, that number had fallen to 11.5 million. The sharpest decline came in the 2000s when the United States granted China permanent normal trade relations status in 2001, and U.S. manufacturing employment fell from 17.3 million to 13.7 million by 2007, a loss of 3.4 million jobs. The economists David Autor, David Dorn, and Gordon Hanson published a series of papers calculating that the so-called China shock cost the United States roughly 2.4 million net jobs between 1999 and 2011.
Gotta bring the jobs back to the U.S. But I'm gonna stop here. There's another roughly 19 minutes left. So if you want, I'll leave a link in the description below. If you want to go watch the rest of the video for yourself, this is pretty good. I like it. This is by Front Page. If you want to subscribe to them, go ahead and do that, because it looks like they got some great videos, and it sounds like Caleb Hammer, and I guess it is Caleb Hammer. But yeah, anyway, I digress. That's it for this video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hypocrisy of male versus women's faces. I'm gonna watch the rest of this later on. All right, peace and much love to you.